Welcome back to Chess Tactic today. In round 7 of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025, we've got fire on the board. Alireza Firouzja takes on Nodirbek Yakubboev. From the very first moves, Firouzja unleashes the razor-sharp fried liver attack with knight to g5 and bishop to b5 check, dragging black into chaos. Queens fly across the board, pawns are sacrificed, and both kings are left exposed in the center. When these two talents collide, you don't get a quiet positional game. You get a fight to the finish. Let's dive in. And here we go! Firouzja opens with pawn to e4, the king's pawn opening, immediately staking a claim in the center and opening lines for his queen and bishop. Yakubboev responds in kind with pawn to e5. This is the classical response, leading to an open game where tactics are sure to flow. White develops the knight to f3, a natural move that attacks black's e5 pawn and prepares for castling, and black defends the pawn with knight to c6. Everything is standard so far, with both players developing their pieces logically. The Italian game begins with bishop to c4. This is a very old and respected opening where the bishop puts pressure on black's weakest point, the f7 square. In response, Yakubboev chooses the two knights defense with knight to f6, developing a piece and immediately putting a question to white's e4 pawn. And there it is! Firouzja chooses the most aggressive path, jumping the knight to g5. This is a direct assault on the f7 square, and it tells us one thing. White is here for a brawl. Yakubboev correctly challenges white's idea immediately, striking in the center with pawn to d5. This move blocks the bishop's attack on f7 and opens a line for his own light-squared bishop. White takes the pawn on d5. The position is now incredibly sharp, and black has a critical decision to make. Black chooses the main line, playing knight to a5. The idea is to kick white's dangerous bishop on b5 away. Black is willing to sacrifice a pawn for long-term activity. White delivers a check with bishop to b5, forcing black to respond before continuing with his plan, and black simply blocks with the pawn to c6. This is all very well-known theory, but the position is anything but simple. White captures the pawn on c6, accepting black's pawn sacrifice. Black recaptures with the b-pawn. Now, look at the board. Black has a powerful pawn center and open lines for his pieces as compensation for the missing pawn. A tricky move from Firouzja. The queen moves to f3, putting pressure on the c6 pawn and preparing for some wild ideas. And this is where the game truly leaves the beaten path. Wow, a huge decision from Yakubboev. He takes the bishop on b5, but what does he allow in return? This is a massive gamble. He gets rid of a key attacking piece, but he opens the a-file for white's queen. The question is, can he handle the consequences? And there are the consequences. White's queen swoops all the way across the board to a8, capturing the rook. Firouzja is now up the exchange, but his queen is temporarily on the edge of the world. The drama is just beginning. Black plays queen to c7, and the plan is clear. Try to trap the white queen on a8. If that queen gets trapped, black will be winning. The tension is palpable, but Firouzja is too careful for that. The queen elegantly sidesteps back to f3, escaping the trap. So, where do we stand? White is up material, but black has a massive lead in development and initiative. Yakubboev wastes no time, bringing his knight back into the game at c6. This knight is an absolute monster, eyeing the key d4 square. A quiet but necessary move. Firouzja plays pawn to c3, shoring up his center and preventing black's knight from jumping to d4. Black continues the pressure, developing his bishop to g4 to harass the white queen. The queen is forced to move again, this time to g3. It's safe for now, but black's pieces are swarming. What a move! Absolutely stunning. Yakubboev throws his knight into d4, seemingly offering it for free. Would you take this knight? It looks so tempting, but it's a poisoned piece. If white plays cx-d4, black has qx-c1. Checkmate. This is a brilliant, tactical shot that shows black is playing for the win. Firouzja sees the trap and calmly develops his knight to a 3, defending the critical c2 square. He's navigating a minefield right now. The attack doesn't stop. Black's other knight hops into e2, forking the queen and the king. The white queen is being chased all over the board. The queen finds a temporary safe square on e3. Firouzja is holding on by a thread. Black captures the knight on a 3, shattering white's pawn structure on the queen side. White's king is starting to look very exposed. White recaptures but now has doubled isolated pawns. A long-term weakness, but Firouzja is focused on surviving the short-term storm. The knight lands on f4, a perfect attacking square. It puts even more pressure on white's kingside and eyes the g2 pawn. Under immense pressure, Firouzja castles kingside. This gets his king out of the center, but is it truly safe over there? The real fireworks are about to begin. And here comes the cavalry. The other knight jumps to d5. Both of black's knights are now deep in white's territory, creating all sorts of threats. White's queen moves to e4, a central square from which it can defend and prepare to create counter-threats. A bold attacking lunge with the f-pawn. Yakubboev is going all in, kicking the queen and opening up the f-file for his rook. The queen retreats to b1, and now black plays a move that seems to force the issue. Black plays pawn to h6, attacking the knight on g5. This looks like a simple, strong move. The question is, where does the knight go? It seems trapped. Or is it? Unbelievable. This is pure genius from Alireza Firouzja. Instead of retreating the attacked knight, he sacrifices it on e6. This move is a thunderbolt that completely changes the game. It deflects black's queen, removes a key defender, and opens up the b5 square for his own queen to jump back into the attack. A defensive masterpiece and a counter-attacking gem all in one. Black is forced to capture the knight, but the damage is done. The defensive coordination is shattered. And now, the reward. Firouzja's queen leaps back into the game with a check on b5. The black king is forced to step forward to e7. It is now feeling very exposed in the center of the board. White's queen captures the pawn on d5. After all that chaos, Firouzja is now up material and has neutralized black's attack. The tide has turned dramatically. But Yakubboev is a fighter. He brings his knight back into the attack on f4, still trying to create threats against the white king. The queen tucks away to b3, a safe square where it eyes black's weak pawns and keeps an eye on the king. Black activates his rook on b8, putting pressure on the b-file and keeping the white queen busy. White repositions his queen to c2, preparing to meet black's last-ditch effort. Another spectacular sacrifice. With his position collapsing, Yakubboev throws his bishop at the king with bf3. This is a desperate but brilliant attempt to rip open the king's side and go for a checkmating attack. He is lighting a fire on the board, hoping to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. What a warrior! Firouzja stays cool under pressure and finds the best defense, pawn to d4. This crucial move opens a line for his own queen to come back and defend the king side. Black delivers a check with the knight on e2, pulling the white king into a more vulnerable position. The king steps to the corner. Now the question is, can black deliver the final blow? The queen swings over to c6, creating a terrifying threat of checkmate on g2. The tension is at its absolute maximum. The only move. Rook to g1, just in time to defend against the mate. White is still hanging on. Yakubboev brings his last piece into the attack, preparing to swing the rook over from f8. He's throwing everything he has at white. While defending, Firouzja creates a counter-threat with pawn to a4, preparing to activate his bishop on a 3. The rook lifts to f6, getting ready to join the final assault on the king side. And there's the counter-check with bishop to a 3. This forces black's king to move and buys white a precious tempo. The king steps back to e8, but white has used the time to prepare the final, decisive blow, the nail in the coffin. A brilliant pawn sacrifice with d5. This move is devastating because it deflects the black queen away from the attack. If black takes the pawn, white's rook on d1 will enter the game with decisive force. This is the move that breaks the back of black's attack for good. Black has no choice but to take the pawn, but now the position is completely lost. The rook comes to d1, pinning the knight and controlling the center. Black's attack has completely run out of steam. The queen is forced to retreat to c6 to defend the knight, and that is the final, crushing blow. Queen to b3. This simple move creates an unstoppable threat of qb8 check, followed by mate. There is absolutely nothing black can do. What a finish. Nodirbek Yakubboev resigns. What an incredible game. A true tactical masterpiece filled with brilliant sacrifices from both sides. Yakubboev's attacking play was inspiring, but Firouzja's defensive resourcefulness, especially that stunning Nay6 sacrifice, was simply out of this world. A truly unforgettable battle. Thanks for watching Chess Tactic today.